What is up, guys? As promised, it's finally here. My masterpiece, my vision for 2023. I present to you the BMW HD Wing. Alright, so if you don't know, this is the model is the Sonicmodell HD Wing, or the Sonicmodell Mac, or the Hobby King Skyway, whichever one you want to call it. They're all the same anyways. And yeah, unfortunately it is discontinued. They don't make it anymore, but I was able to get it secondhand from a very generous fellow. I'll talk about that at the end. But yeah, this is the model I chose to do my first HD FPV setup on, and it had to be this model. Why? I'll explain in the maiden video when I get to it, and also why I chose Walksnail over DJI and HD0. But for now, I'm just going to focus on the build and explaining, my reasonings for what I did and whatnot. But yeah, because if I include those other things, it's going to be too long. But yeah, let's just get into it. So starting off, we have the camera. So yeah, this Walksnail, as I've already mentioned, and I've got mine on a pan servo. It's I think it's the JXT, something like that, JXT 180 digital servo, and I did a resistor mod on this. So when I pan, it gives me 270 degrees field of view. And because of the angle of the lens as well, when it looks back, you can see the whole, the back of the plane basically. So it's basically 360 degrees, which is pretty cool. I don't think you need to do the resistor mod. I think with iNav you can actually extend the endpoints, and it will work. But I just did the resistor mod anyways because I had a bunch of resistors just lying around, so yeah, I just did it. The mount that I'm using here as well, the Runcam mount. So this is the 19 by 19 millimeter mounts that you get with some Runcam cameras. I got this one from the Runcam, I think it's the Runcam Split 3 Micro, but you can just buy them separately from like most FPV stores or Runcam themselves, and yeah, it fits perfectly fine. Originally I was going to use those clear, those clear transparent 19 by 19 mounts that you get with their micro cameras, and then I was gonna use the metal mounts that come with the big cameras and put them together, but fortunately I found this in my spares bin, so I just used it instead. Less work. So moving on to the cable. So this cable is the 20 centimeter one, and I know there's some people that ask, oh, how do you connect it, because it doesn't come with a back plate. So what I did was, on the camera side, hold on one sec. So yeah, this is what it essentially looks like. This is the 14 centimeter version that comes with the back plate, but obviously the camera itself comes with the 9 centimeter one. So when you unscrew the back, it comes like this. It will come out like this, and you got this rubber seal around the cable. So what I did was I got a little X-Acto knife, and I carefully unpeeled the seal, and that allowed me to just pop and pull the 9 centimeter cable out, the stock cable. And then when I pulled it out, I just pushed this 20 centimeter cable through the hole, as you can see, and then just gently popped it into the camera, and it worked fine. So that's what you do on the camera side, at least. You can see the little tape in the back. That's where I originally had the servo, but unfortunately when it was there, the nose of the plane was showing like a lot, and I didn't like that, so I just moved it forward, and I didn't have the foam cut out, so I threw it away by accident, so I had to put some tape on it. This is like the only part of the plane that just looks like shit, but I guess we can't be perfect, so I don't know, I'll probably put like a sticker on it just to make it look a bit nicer, but for now that's what it is. So if I just pop the hood, here we have the engine. So this is a 4.3 litre twin turbocharged V8. Gives me around about 650 horsepower, 6,000 milliamps to the gallon. Yeah, this is what you want. This is what you want, man. No, I'm just kidding. So basically, this is the VTX for the Walksnail unit. So if I just bend down, I've got mine on a little stand here. So this is the, get my pointer. So this here is the Walksnail stand that Painless 360 designed, that he's got on Thingiverse. So I just got that sitting on top, and then in the middle I have these M2 nylon standoffs, and in the middle here I have a little M2 lock nut, and then on top I've just used some what's it called, M2 screws. So I had 2 issues with this VTX. The first issue that I had was that the bottom heat shrink, oh, Jesus Christ, the bottom heat sink, that's it, and the top heat sink were not connected. They weren't grounded together, basically. The top one was grounded, but the bottom one wasn't. So the simple fix was to just scuff. I just scuffed the edges everywhere where the bolt was. I scuffed the top and the bottom, and then I used these nuts, these metal nuts, to basically, you know, connect them together. So when I used a multimeter to do a continuity test, they were both connected. That's the reason I have these nuts here. It's not because the screw is too long, it's actually because I wanted it to have a metal contact, so that they're both connected. So that way the VTX is fully shielded and doesn't spew out a lot of noise. The second issue I had with this thing was that it overheats. It's the overheating issue. Even on standby mode, enabled, give it 30 seconds and this thing is reaching 130 to 40 degrees and climbing. It got so bad to one point where it actually completely turned off, shut down on me, and at that point I thought, shit, I've broken it. But then after, when I left it to cool down, it turned back on. So yeah, when I'm testing this thing on the bench when I didn't put the fan on, this thing would I'd have to constantly turn it on and off so that it didn't shut down on me. So you probably think, oh, why not just put it up here because you get cooling? Yeah, that's if you're flying, but when you're on the bench, there's no cooling, so you got to think of something else. Also, I wanted to have this plane as the airfoil as clean as possible, and obviously I've owned this plane a lot before, and I already knew about this little front part of the plane, and that's where I envisioned it being. I wanted it to be all inside the plane. I didn't want anything to be outside, so that's why I put it here. So obviously when I'm flying, I wanted it to get sufficient cooling. Oh, the beeper's gone. One sec. Alright, that should keep it quiet for a while. So that's why I have this grill here. So yeah, it's not just because, you know, it's based off of a car. It actually has a purpose. It allows airflow to go over the VTX when I'm flying and stuff, and that's also the reason why I have it on. Come on, just go here. Just go. God damn it! Here. There we go. So that's why I have it standing, elevated so high up, so that it lines up with the position. Yeah, see there, it lines up with the position of the grill so that the airflow goes directly above. And then obviously you look at it has airflow units here as well, air inlets here as well, but because of the positioning of these holes, I didn't think it would actually provide good enough airflow over the VTX itself, so that's why I opted to put the grill in instead. And moving on to the fan. So originally I was going to use this because this is what I had in hand, which is just a small 5-volt fan, but that thing is shit. Let me bring it in view. This thing is absolutely pathetic. This thing couldn't do a blowjob to save its life. If it was my wife, I would divorce it because it is absolutely shit. So instead, I needed to find a different solution. So I went to the RC Car World and found this fan. The fans that they use on their ESCs and motors to keep them cool, because you know the RC cars, the ESCs and shit on their ones like get really hot. So this is a I think it's a Surpass Hobby 28,000 RPM fan, aluminium, and I've just got it zip tied on the VTX. But it's not actually connecting. If you look really deep inside, if you can see it there on top of the right inside, there's like a foam piece that I just put inside there, so that they're not actually connecting. There's a small air gap between it, but I've had it connecting, and I used the multimeter, and it doesn't. There's no continuity, so even if it was touching, it wouldn't like have any grounding issues. But yeah, that's what I use. And this thing is, well, let me turn it on. Yeah, listen to that engine roar. Yeah, this thing is like a hurricane, man. It blows air like crazy. And it completely solved. This thing completely solved my overheating issues. This thing, the VTX, never gets hot anymore because of this thing. And obviously, I've got it on a nice switch, so that it doesn't, so that it's not on all the time. Yeah, that's pretty much that. Is there anything else I need to explain? Yeah, the BEX. So the fan runs on 5 to 8.45 volts, and the VTX, I had it on the VBAT. But what I decided to do in the beginning was I used the small Maytech 5 to 9 volt BEX on this thing, and I did have them both connected on one BEC, but when I did that, it did none of both the fan and the VTX didn't turn on, so apparently it was drawing too much amps, which didn't make sense because the BECs are rated for 2 amps, and I both had them on the 9 volt setting, but it is what it is. So instead I spliced it, and I connected a second. I got 2 becks basically, so they're both running on separate becks now instead of one beck, and it's working fine. So if I put this back, so moving on, we have my headlights. So I've got LED lights in the front, and if I just turn off the lights here, turn on these bad boys, yeah. So there's only one setting, which is full beams, but obviously I'm not driving behind anyone, so I'm not going to be blinding anyone and causing car crashes. But yeah, so that's those are the lights, my headlights for when I'm flying at night. And underneath you can see I got the Maytech, I think these are the Maytech 8-bit programmable LEDs. So that one's red, and I've got the green on that side. And at the back, I'm using this is a 16-bit NeoPixel programmable LED ring, and I'm gonna change the setting, but currently if I just arm it, LEDs spin, and then when I move the So yeah, that's how I've got it. I will take off the ring effect though, and just put a fixed setting, but for now that's the way it is. So turn it around, disarm it. Yeah, so that's how I've got my light set up. And continuing on the wing side, underneath I have these 3D printed skids. Got them on the bottom here, got them on the other wings as well, just for landing. And on top I've got the servos. These are the Emax digital servos. What is it? The ES08MDs. The one that says 8, not 9. So yeah, all digital. That's what I like to use. They're inexpensive and they're just reliable and they just work. So I'm pretty happy with those. Oops, I forgot to mention. For the Walksnail unit, I'm using TrueRC singularity antennas, and these are right-hand polarized. Near the end, I'll explain why I chose right-hand polarized instead of left. But yeah, that's what I'm using, and that's also another reason why I have the VTX elevated, because as you can see, these cables here are closer to the top, so they don't basically stretch, and it allows me to position the antennas around, and I can extend them out more, I can put them further in if I want. It sort of just acts as a bit of strain relief. So yeah, I think that's pretty much the overview of that, of the outside. So let me move on and pop the hood, or pop the trunk, not the hood, sorry. Get to the bits, the good bits. So this is the inside. If I just go on this side here, you can see the 2 heat sinks. These are 2 Maytech BECs that I have connected to the VTX and the fan. And then here I have an RC switch that I have connected to the flight controller to turn it on from the radio. And then this switch here, this is another switch which I use for the headlights, and obviously that's obviously connected to the flight controller. So the flight controller that I'm using is the Maytech F405WMN, and for this plane, this flight controller is perfect. I couldn't think of a better flight controller for the build. It's small, compact, light. It has enough servo ports for the plane. It has just enough UARTs, like for everything that I'm using. Yeah, it's just great. It runs. I'm running it on iNav 6.0, and everything just seems fine. Like it just does the job. It works. For the servo ports, I have mine on the 6-volt setting. That's what I do with all of them, and it just runs great. So not really much to really talk about it, to be honest, or to say about it. Here I have some low ESR capacitors. It does look a bit overkill. It's because I took it from a dead H743 board that I had lying around, so I basically desoldered it and then just soldered it onto this board. I think these are 1000 microfarad 50 volt low ESR capacitors, and underneath, if I can remove the wires out of the way, you can't really see it very well, but I have some JST connectors, extension connectors that I connect to it to get power out. So on this side I have a JST connected to this BEC. So this is a 12 volt BEC that I use to power the headlights, because they run off of 12 volts. If you power them off of 16 volts, they'll overheat and shut down. Even if you have good airflow on them, they'll just burn out eventually. Here, this little black heatsink here, this is the, I think it's the R9mm, because I'm running FreeSky, not Crossfire, and this is running the, what's it called? Is it the ASCII? Not the Access. It's the older version, older firmware. I think it's that's how I pronounce it, ASCII. It's probably wrong, but who cares? Running the Flex firmware F port, so I get telemetry, RSSI, and S-bus all on one wire going into the board. So it just gives me, so I use just one UART instead of two. And then here the antenna is recessed into the foam on this side, and it just sticks out. And these foam pieces here, they're not glued in, they're literally just push fitted into place. Why am I using FreeSky? Well, it's simple, because it had adaptive power up to 1 watt, and it has 16 channels. So Crossfire only limits me to 12 channels, and that's not enough for me. On this plane I run 13 channels, and I might run more if I want to add some extra stuff. So that's why I stick with FreeSky instead of Crossfire, just for that reason alone. But anyways, let me see my notes. So moving on, we have so yeah, I have mine connected with an ET60 XT60 connector to the ESC. I ran out of heat shrink, so that's why you can see it's exposed. But don't worry, it's not. I used silicone coating around the metal contacts, so it doesn't conduct. It's completely insulated basically. So if I carefully just remove this shelf, so this is like a wooden piece that comes with the plane, and that's supposed to go here, but I obviously repurposed it as a shelf. And if I just remove that, on the inside here you can see the ESC. So this ESC is a Holybro Tico 32 35 amp BR Heli ESC, quad ESC. And the reason I use this is because, well, for a lot of reasons actually. One, it has like really low noise output. I think it was on Drone Mesh's videos where he did like a stress test on it, and it like basically did like no noise output, or very low noise output, voltage spikes and whatnot. And I've added a 35 volt 1000 microfarad capacitor on it, and this is the same one as these ones, so I think I was wrong. It's not 50 volts, it's actually 35 volts, but it's fine because this is running on 4S, so 16 volts, so it's still going to work perfectly fine in absorbing the voltage spikes. But yeah, BHeli 32. Why? Because it's programmable, easily programmable. You can put the LED light on, customize the LED. I can change the direction of the motor. You can play music on it, on the tone. I've got it running on D-Shot 600 because I don't like calibrating. It's just peace of mind and simple. What else is there about these things? Even has active freewheeling, which is something that I really like because that actually helps with efficiency and stuff. So I've like really done up the settings in BR Heli Suite to get like the maximum efficiency out of this thing, and it does run pretty hot though. On the bench, this thing would get all the way up to 107 degrees, but I stress tested it for a good 4 hours when I was testing the capacity of my batteries, and it worked flawlessly. Even at that temperature, it was running fine. It didn't give me any dips or hiccups. It just worked. So hands down, these are great ESCs. Oh, it's beeping again. So highly recommend them. Also, it doesn't have a beck, obviously, because you don't need it when you're running flight controllers, because the flight controller has it. So there's the added benefit of that, which allows them to be really light as well. Alright, moving on. So this is the shelf that I have, and let's start with the GPS. So this is an M10, one of the new M10 GPSs that Maytech has made. Normally for my planes, I would use the ArcBird GPS, the GPS that comes with the ArcBird autopilot. But the reason why I like using that GPS so much is because out of all of the GPSs that I've tested, that is just the best. It locks the sats the fastest. I even get sats in my house around in less than like a minute. It will lock 10 sats inside my house, and it's very resistant to interference as well, because I run them on my 1.3 gigahertz planes, and it has no problem even when the VTX is on. But the reason I didn't buy that is because I have to get them from China, and I don't want to have to wait that long. I tried the BN22, I tried the Maytech M8, and those GPSs just didn't do it for me. They took way too long. They never got sats in my house. If I put them outside, they probably would, but I'm so spoiled by the ArcBird GPSs that I wanted something that would give me sats even if I was indoors. So I got this, and yeah, this thing does outperform my ArcBird antennas. When I tried filming this video yesterday, it gave me up to 20 sats indoors. It locked sats really quickly. Yeah. So I think it's great. This is a great GPS. Here I have the breakout board, and I'm just using a 90-degree USB-C adapter for the board, so I can just plug it into the PC. I don't have to bend the wires. Here is this is the Earsheen SpeedyB Bluetooth adapter, and I've got it connected to a UART, a free UART on the FC. I forgot to mention as well that I also have for the ESC, I have ESC telemetry connected to the flight controller as well, to get ESC temperature, RPMs, and also if the current sensor on the flight controller was to fail, I could use the current sensor on the ESC and as a backup. You know, another reason why to use BL Heli 32 ESCs. But anyways, I'm sidetracking. The Bluetooth adapter. Unfortunately, these they don't make these anymore. They're discontinued, which sucks. But yeah, essentially, I use it to obviously hook it up to SpeedyB app for iNav configuration, and to BL Heli 32 app on my phone to configure my ESC. But an alternative to this is you can buy the HM10 Bluetooth modules, and if you just configure them on your computer, you can use Arduino, the Arduino application, to do that. Then hook it up to the flight controller. It should work on the SpeedyB app and the BL Heli app as well. I tried the Flywoo Bluetooth adapter, but that didn't work on my phone. I wasn't able to connect for some reason, so I don't recommend those. Here I have the Flytron strobe light, and I just desoldered the little light bulb and connected it to a wire, recessed it through the back, and put it here. And I have it connected to my arm switch, so when the plane is armed, as you've already seen, it starts to flash. And here, it's my favorite part of the plane. Have them on all of my planes. They're an essential piece. This is the OLED display, so I've just got connected to an I2C port on my flight controller, and yeah, they just give you a basic summary of, you know, some stats like your voltage, milliamp stats, your longitude, latitude, and whatnot. I'll tell you if you have a fix or not. So these are just great, and even when you arm as well, they tell you when you're armed and shit like that. Really useful, especially when you're calibrating the current sensor on the flight controller, because it shows the milliamps. You don't actually need to use a screen, your goggles or an FPV monitor. You can actually just use the OLED display and then connect it to iNav on the computer, and then simply enable the motor, let it spin, and then track the milliamps. So that's what I use. It's just a really convenient tool. And we go to the back of the plane. To be honest, I don't think I need to lift it up. I'm running Sunny Sky. So on the inside, obviously you can't see it, but I have a 3D printed motor mount for this that has M3 lock nut recesses. So I've glued those in, and then on the inside here there are these rubber standoffs. Let's see if I have one on the table. Nope. Okay, I don't have it. But yeah, I got these rubber standoffs that I put them on to extend the motor so that it gets more airflow. It also helps with CG and noise reduction because it's further away from the body, and also if there's any like vibrations, any minor vibrations that is being caused by the prop, that helps to just dampen it out. But obviously I don't really rely on that because I balance all my props anyways, so but that's just there just as an extra bonus. So the motor, I'm using my spare SonySky X226 1150 kV motor, and the folding hub I'm using here is just a Maytech, not to be mistaken with Maytech, and I got a little 3D printed prop stop, which I think is also done by Painless 360, and I'm using Aeronaut Cam 9x7 folding props. And on the bottom here you can see a nylon M5 knot so that it doesn't come off. So why am I not using a fixed prop? It's because even if I have on normal landings it's fine, but if I were to have like a hard landing, let's say I was trying to land and I needed to dodge a tree branch and I pushed down really hard, the prop would break. Even if I had brake enabled on the BL Heli ESC, it would still break. How do I know this? Because it happened with my S11 Harrier. So for my flying wings, I only use folding props now. I'd rather break the prop stop, and because they're cheap and easy to just print and replace, than to have to buy a completely new prop. It's just not worth it. And moving on to here, we have the battery bay. So this battery here is a custom 4S2P 18650 7000 milliamp hour pack, and with this battery the plane weighs around 1.28 kg, so pretty light. But I can use my other batteries, for example this, which is the biggest battery I have, which is it's also 4S2P, but this is a 21-7000. This is using 21-700 cells, and it's actually 5,000, 10,000 milliamps basically. And with that battery, the plane weighs 1.45 kg, but I am still able to get CG. I'll probably use that battery for like windy days. I could still fly it on a calm day, it just means I have to use a bit more amps. It's gone off again. So yeah, but obviously yeah, and then with this battery I'll just use it on calm days. But yeah, it's nice and versatile, and I'm not limited to what I can use. So what else is there to talk about? What else is there? So one thing that I really wanted to make sure I would get with this plane was having airflow. That was one of the limitations or flaws that I had in a lot of my older builds. So that's why if I just remove, actually there's no point removing it. If you look, oh fuck, I have to remove it. Sorry for my swearing, by the way. So if you see here, I have these exhaust holes, because when you want good airflow, it's not just about having big inlets like here and here. It's also about, you also need to have outlets. So this is what it looks like from the back. So that just allows air to come out of the plane as well, effectively, giving me effective airflow. So everything, hopefully, when it's in the air, if I just push this thing back inside, whatever, I'll sort that out later. Everything will run nice and cool. And obviously you got the hole here where air will come out as well. It will come out through the motor and it'll come out through the sides. Underneath I have a magnet, and that's obviously to hold down the clips and the screws as well while I'm transporting it and while I'm flying, so it doesn't go all over the place. Alright, so that's basically the overview of the plane. So, BMW. Why did I choose BMW? Well, fun fact, BMW actually started off as an aircraft engine manufacturer for World War One and Two planes in Germany, and so that's where their roots started. I think they used to call themselves BFW instead of BMW, but you know, when Germany lost, I think they were banned from building aircraft, so BMW had to switch up their game. But yeah, that's one of the reasons why I actually use them, because their roots are with planes, so it actually does make sense. It's not a random pick. And the real reason why I picked them is because the stickers are cheap. They're cheap and available compared to other brands. So yeah, do what you will. But that's that. So I think that's pretty much the plane explained. Let me now start talking about Walksnail. So let's talk more about the Walksnail unit. So I'm using, as I mentioned before, I'm using right-hand polarized antennas. Why? Mainly because originally I was going to buy left-hand, but in my spares I found these. I had these, which were IB Crazy Pepperbox antennas, and I had them from my analog setup that I was using. And originally I was going to buy left hand, and I was basically going to buy this antenna, but the 5.8 version. I was going to buy two of them, and they were what, together they were like $100 extra. And I just thought to myself, hold on a second, I have two IB Crazy VAS IB Crazy VAS, same thing, IB Crazy Pepperbox antennas, and they basically perform exactly the same as that antenna. I just thought, just save yourself the money and just use these, and just get right hand polarized. The reason why they sell it with left hand polarized is because you know, a lot of people, if you're flying with other people, they use right hand, so you'd want left hand to obviously counteract and reduce interference. But I don't fly with anyone, at least not anymore, and even if I was flying with my old buddy, he uses 1.3, so it doesn't even matter. So I just thought, yeah, just use right hand, it really doesn't matter. I still have the left hand stock antennas anyways. In fact, I got the Christmas bundle, so I actually have a separate VTX as well, which I can use whenever in a new plane or as a replacement, or I can just sell it. So it really doesn't matter. It doesn't affect latency, it doesn't affect anything. It's literally just a different polarization. So that's that. What else is there? For my HDMI cable, this is what I'm using. I have ordered a shorter HDMI cable because this one's really long, but the capture card, so I'm using this blue one, and it works on my phone, on the USB. When I connect it, I use the USB Camera Pro app, and it does output 1080p 30 frames per second, and that allows me to get to obviously record the OSD and do narration as well, and it just saves the whole thing onto my phone. And I know that there is that OSD tool that you can use for overlaying the OSD over the HD recording, but I prefer to just have live narration on my phone because it's a lot easier to speak and do everything just in one go. But who knows, I might use the tool for other types of videos as well. I did try two other capture cards. One of them didn't work. I would show it in the video, but I can't find it. This is the other one that I tried to test out. This cost me £50 and it does work. But the problem is, the reason I bought this was because I thought it would give me 1080p 60 frames per second. When I connected it to my phone, it does output 60 frames per second on the 1080p setting, but the video is garbage. It's worse than the blue HDMI cable, the blue capture card cable that I'm using here, and this cost me, I think, $6 or £6 on AliExpress, and that gives me a better video than this, which cost me £50. So that I don't recommend using the £50 one. It's garbage. I'll probably just give it away to a friend as a present. But yeah, that's that. What else is there to talk about? The firmware I'm running. So I'm running the beta firmware, the 31 point something 0.8 firmware. You know what it is. It'll be in the description. And the reason I'm running it is because I want to test the low light capabilities of this thing and compare it, do a comparison video to the Runcam Night Eagle 3, because that also gives me color in low light conditions. So it's sort of like a digital vs analog type of thing that I want to do a comparison on, because I don't think anyone's actually done that yet. All they've just done is shown some 15-second clips of them flying in a parking lot at night. That's not a test to me. You need to fly it in like proper low light conditions. So I'll do that. So yeah, that pretty much summarizes the build. What are the flaws? The flaws with this build. I guess the two flaws I would say is, one, the idle amp draw is high on this plane, mainly because of the video, well, mainly because of this flipping engine that I have in the front. When I turn it on, without the motor running, this thing draws approximately 1 amp on my both on the watt meter and on the current sensor. It gives me 1 amp idle. So it is quite a hungry setup, whereas normal setups would be like 0.3 amps. This is like 1 amp. So I have to bear that in mind. Oh great, it's doing it again. So yeah, that's that. And the second thing that is a flaw in this thing is the stupid removable system on this thing. You have to screw flipping 10 screws. It's stupid, but it's fine because I got this for the plane, so it will speed up the setup time on the field and whatnot. How am I bringing it on the field? Well, I'm using this bag here, which is a glider bag that you get. I bought from AliExpress. It's the same bag I use for my mini Talon up here, where I fit the wings and everything. But we're not talking about her. We're talking about her. But yeah, those bags are really cool. You can put them on your back, strap them on your back, and then take them to the field and whatnot. Because I don't drive, I ride a bike for now, until I get a car. What else? So, changes I would make to this plane, or changes I'm gonna make, it's probably only 2 really. One, that flag is a bit too small compared to the Nürburgring one, So I got a second one that's bigger that I'm gonna put on there. And the next thing that I might add on is a pan and tilt unit. So Bonafide Pilot, he designed a 3D printed pan and tilt system for the Walksnail unit on his E-Sky Eagle. So I'm just waiting for him to finish up the design, and so that he puts on Thingiverse, and then I can print it out and test it. And obviously, because I got the F405 flight controller, I can use, I think I got 3 more. Yeah, you can see that I got 3 more servo ports, so I'm just gonna connect a spare servo extension lead to connect the tilt servo and have that running. And obviously, because I've got FreeSky, I have enough channels on like flipping Crossfire. Yeah, so that's that. So when the weather gets better, I'm gonna do a lot more videos, a lot more testing and whatnot, because this system, the videos on YouTube, like a lot of them are just like quad pilots. Most of them are, you know, from a quads perspective, and I'm sick of quad videos. Like I don't care for quads. I like planes. I really don't give a shit about quads, and there's not enough plane pilots, you know, flying this unit and stuff. So I'm not getting much of their perspective, and the only ones that are out there are just like quiet HD videos. Like they're not really explaining anything. It's just, oh look, I'm flying in the clouds or whatever. So I'm gonna see if I can just make some videos just sharing my thoughts and whatnot while I'm flying and stuff, so that you guys can actually get an opinion and information about it. So that's that. That's the end of that. Big shout out and thanks to my guy Steve. I'm not going to say your surname because I know I'm going to butcher it. So one of the admins from the Fixed Wing, INAV Fixed Wing group, he's the one that graciously sold me his secondhand HD wing because I couldn't get it anywhere else. Yeah, thank you so much. I'm really thankful for that. Really appreciate it. I told you I was gonna make it into a masterpiece. Like it wasn't gonna go to waste. And also another shout out to my guy Paul Shuttleworth. He's the guy that does my 3D prints for all my planes for years. I know people say, oh, why don't you just buy your own printer? Well, because I'm lazy. But obviously he's been doing it for me for time, and it's always quality and reasonable prices as well. So thank you to you as well for that. So yeah, I'm gonna wrap this up. It's a really long video. If you have any questions about anything, the Walksnail, the plane, the flight controller, iNav, whatever, feel free to leave it in the comment section below, and I will answer it to the best of my capabilities. When the weather finally lightens up and isn't blowing like a flipping hurricane, because I'm getting like 40 to 50k winds in my area, just one calm day. When I get one calm day, I'll get this thing sorted, and then it can be pissing outside for all I care. I am gonna fly this thing because I have been dying to fly HD for a very long time. But obviously, when the weather is compliant. Anyways, that's that done. I'm out. Peace.